Her boyfriend laughed and waved the new keys through the glass, mouthing, "Call a lawyer, old man." I didn't call a lawyer. I just pulled one move that made the house uninhabitable within 48 hours. I checked into a luxury suite and waited for the frantic phone calls to start. I stood there on the porch, my porch, the porch where I'd sanded the decking on my hands and knees 3 summers ago. It was raining, not a movie rain, a miserable, cold drizzle that seeped into the collar of my jacket. I looked at the door, solid oak. I installed it in 1998. I knew exactly how much it weighed. I knew the strike plate was reinforced with 3-inch screws because I was the one who drilled them in. And now, my key, the brass key on the ring with my truck fob and the loyalty card for the hardware store, wouldn't turn. "Sarah!" I yelled. I didn't pound on the door. I just yelled her name. The curtain moved, just a flutter. Then he appeared. Jason. Or Jackson. I could never remember. He was wearing one of those oversized hoodies that look expensive but feel like cheap polyester. He had that smirk, that entitlement that you can't buy, but you can definitely inherit. He waved the keys, smiled, and mouthed those words, "Call a lawyer, old man." My stomach didn't drop. It tightened, like a fist. I looked down at the welcome mat. Muddy boots. His boots. A pair of designer sneakers. Hers. They were lined up next to the door like they belonged there, like I was the intruder. "Open the door, Sarah," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "We need to talk." Jason disappeared from the window. A moment later, my phone buzzed. A text. "Dad, please just go. We need space. Jason says you're being toxic. We'll talk next week." Toxic. I paid the mortgage. I paid the property taxes. I paid the insurance. I paid for the new roof last year, $14,000 cash, because Sarah said her room was drafting. And now I was toxic. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a rock through the window. I walked back to my truck. A 2018 Ford F-150. Reliable. Unlike my daughter. I sat in the driver's seat and just breathed. In, out. The smell of old coffee and sawdust. It grounded me. I looked at the house. My house. The lights were on in the living room, the big bay window. I could see shadows moving. They were setting up for something. A party. It was Friday night. Sarah had mentioned Jason wanted to host a gathering for his friends. I had told her no. I told her I had work in the morning. "It's my house too, Dad," she'd argued. "No," I'd said. "It's your home. It's my house." I guess she decided to change that distinction. I started the truck. The engine rumbled. I didn't drive away immediately. I watched. A car pulled up, a BMW. Then another, kids piling out, carrying cases of beer, bottles of vodka, walking up my driveway, walking into my house. I reached for my phone to dial 911. My thumb hovered over the call button. I imagined the conversation. "My daughter locked me out." "Is she a resident, sir?" "Yes, but it's a civil matter. You'll have to evict her." I knew the cops in this town. Good guys, but they followed the law, and the law said if she had a key and mail delivered there, she lived there. If I forced my way in, I'd be the one in handcuffs. Domestic disturbance. I put the phone down. I looked at the utility pole across the street. The transformer hummed, a gray cylinder against the gray sky. I looked at the water meter cover near the curb, a small metal disc in the grass. I looked at the side of the house where the main breaker panel was mounted. I'm not just a father, I'm a master electrician. Retired, mostly, but I kept my license active, I kept my tools, and I knew every wire, every pipe, every circuit in that house, because I put them there. A slow realization washed over me. They wanted the house, They could have the house. But a house is just wood and drywall. It's not a home until you plug it in. I put the truck in gear and drove away. I didn't go to a lawyer. I went to the hardware store. I checked into the Embassy Suites downtown. Room 412, a corner suite, king bed, kitchenette. The front desk clerk, a young woman named Martinez, looked at my ID. "Local address, sir?" she asked. "Plumbing issues," I lied. "Big ones." She smiled sympathetically. "Oh, that's the worst. Hope you get it sorted." "It'll take about 48 hours," I said. "Maybe 72. I went up to the room. I didn't unpack. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. First, I checked my bank accounts. I saw the withdrawal immediately. Thursday, yesterday. Transfer to Sarah J. Miller, $4,000. She had access to the joint checking account, the emergency fund. We set it up when she started college, for flat tires, for textbooks, for emergencies. She drained it. $4,000. Gone. Then I checked the credit card, the one I gave her for gas. Liquor World, $342. Party City, $189. Sound system rentals, $650. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from a cold, hard rage. This wasn't just a teenage rebellion. Sarah was 24. She knew better. This was a hostile takeover, funded by me. I closed the laptop. I needed to think clearly. Jason. He was a brand ambassador. That's what he told me the first time we met. He didn't have a job. He had an Instagram following. He sold energy drinks and crypto schemes to high schoolers. He called me Pops, not with respect, with that sneering irony kids use when they think they're smarter than you because they know how to edit a TikTok. "Pops, you gotta leverage your assets," he'd told me at Thanksgiving. "Sitting on that house is dead equity." I'd told him to pass the gravy and shut up. He'd never forgiven me for that. And Sarah? My Sarah. She used to hold the flashlight for me when I fixed the water heater. She used to hand me the wrench. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, daddy? Now she was letting this parasite dictate terms. She was letting him lock me out of the home I built for her mother. God, her mother. Linda would have skinned them both alive. Linda died 5 years ago. Cancer. It took her fast. We had plans. We were going to travel. We were going to sell the house eventually and buy a condo in Florida. But after the funeral, Sarah fell apart. She moved back in. I let her. I wanted to help. I let her stay rent-free to save for a deposit on her own place. 2 years. No savings. Just new clothes, new phones, and now Jason. I walked to the window of the hotel room. I could see the city skyline. My house was 5 miles away, in the suburbs. I pulled out a notepad, a yellow legal pad. I always carry one. I clicked my pen. List of assets. The house, deed in my name. The utilities, accounts in my name. The infrastructure, installed by me. List of liabilities. My daughter. The boyfriend. The law. Eviction takes 90 days minimum in this state. 90 days. They plan to live there for 3 months. Party, trash the place, spend my money. Then what? Leave or claim squatters' rights? Jason had probably looked it up. He probably told her, "He can't kick us out, babe. The law protects tenants, even if we don't pay rent." He was right. But he was also wrong. Because to be a tenant, the unit has to be habitable. And habitability requires 3 things: running water, electricity, sanitation. Take those away, and it's not a house anymore. It's a condemned structure. And for safety reasons, safety is paramount, right? No one is allowed to stay in a condemned structure. I looked at the clock. 7:15 p.m. The sun was down. The party was starting. The utility companies were closed for the weekend. But the emergency lines? The emergency lines are open 24/7. But I couldn't just call and cancel. That's illegal. A landlord can't cut utilities to force an eviction. That's a constructive eviction. I'd get sued. I'd lose. I had to be smarter. I had to be the responsible homeowner. I had to be concerned about safety. I picked up my phone. I dialed a number. Not the police. My buddy Dave. He works dispatch for the city water department. "Dave," I said when he picked up. "Mike, it's Friday night. You better not be calling about that alternator." "Not the alternator. I need a favor. Or rather, I need to report a potential hazard." Dave paused. The tone of my voice must have tipped him off. "What kind of hazard?" "I'm worried about the backflow preventer at my place," I said. "I think the seal is failing. I wouldn't want raw sewage backing up into the city main. That's a huge fine, right?" "Mike," Dave said slowly, "what are you doing?" "I'm doing maintenance, Dave. Emergency maintenance. I need to pull the main shutoff at the street to replace the valve. But I'm out of town, and I'm worried about a leak." "You want me to flag it?" "I want you to mark the account for emergency service suspend, safety reasons, until the homeowner, that's me, can verify the repair." Dave was quiet for a second. Then I heard him typing. "If I flag it for safety, the city sends a tech to lock the meter, tonight, within 2 hours." "Perfect," I said. "Safety first." "Is everything okay, Mike?" "It will be," I said. "Thanks, Dave." I hung up. That was step 1. Step 2 was the power. I couldn't call the power company and play the same card. They'd just send a truck, see the lights were on, and leave. No, I had to handle the electrons myself. I grabbed my jacket. I grabbed my tool bag from the truck. I drove back to the neighborhood. I parked 2 streets over. I didn't want them to see the truck. I walked through the neighbors' yards. Mrs. Higgins' hydrangeas were blooming. I stepped carefully. The rain had stopped, but the ground was soft. I approached my house from the back. The music was loud, thumping bass, some rap song I didn't recognize. I could see them through the sliding glass door. Red cups, dancing. Someone was smoking something that definitely wasn't tobacco in my living room. On my Persian rug, Linda's rug. My jaw clenched so hard a tooth cracked. I felt a sharp, jagged edge against my tongue. Good. The pain focused me. I crept along the side of the house to the service entrance. The electrical meter was mounted on the exterior wall, near the garage. I had a padlock on the breaker box. I fished the key from my pocket. Click. I opened the panel. Now, a normal person flips the main breaker. The lights go out. The kids scream. They check the box. They flip it back on. Game over. I'm not a normal person. I'm a professional. I looked at the sub-panel feed, the one that controlled the HVAC, the kitchen appliances, and the outlets in the living room. I didn't just flip the breakers. I loosened the load side lugs. I pulled the wires for the main living areas and capped them with wire nuts. Then I put the wires behind the breaker panel dead front, tucked away where you couldn't see them unless you took the whole cover off. Then I put the breaker switches back to the on position. To the untrained eye, like Jason's, the breakers were on, but no power was flowing. It's called a ghost trip in the trade, though usually that implies a faulty breaker. This was a ghost disconnect. But I wasn't done. The pièce de résistance. The Internet. The fiber optic line came in through a gray box near the ground. I didn't cut the cable. That's vandalism. Instead, I opened the interface box. I unplugged the optical patch cord. I took a small piece of clear Scotch tape. I placed it over the tip of the fiber connector. Then I plugged it back in. The connection light would still blink. The modem would think it was connected. But the signal? The light can't pass through the tape clearly. Packet loss, massive, crippling latency. It wouldn't be dead, it would be slow. Unusably slow. Buffering hell. No Spotify, no Netflix, no live streaming the party to Instagram. I closed the box. I locked the electrical panel. I disappeared into the shadows just as the city water truck turned onto the street. I watched from behind the Higgins oak tree. The city worker, a guy I didn't know, walked up to the curb with a long T-handle wrench. He lifted the meter cover. He turned the valve. He installed a padlock on the curb stop. He tagged the door with a bright orange sticker, "Water service suspended, safety hazard." He drove away. I looked at my watch. 9:03 p.m. The house still had water in the pipes, maybe 10 gallons in the pressure tank. The lights in the living room were still on. I hadn't cut the lights, only the outlets and the HVAC. Why? Because I wanted them to see. I wanted them to see the chaos when the music died. I walked back to my truck. I drove back to the hotel. I stopped at a liquor store on the way. I bought a bottle of Macallan 12, Linda's favorite. I went back to room 412. I poured a glass. I turned on the TV. And I waited. It started at 9:42 p.m. My phone lit up. Incoming call, Sarah. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. 2 minutes later, incoming call, Sarah. I took a sip of scotch. Smooth, peaty. I let it ring. Then came the text. Dad, the internet sucks. Did you change the password? I chuckled. No, sweetie, I said to the empty hotel room. Physics changed the password. 9:55 p.m. Incoming call, unknown number. That would be Jason. I declined it. 10:15 p.m. This was the moment. The text from Sarah came in all caps. The power to the speakers died, and the fridge is off, but the lights are on. Dad, pick up. I typed a reply. I didn't send it yet. I just typed it out to see how it looked. I don't live there anymore, remember? I deleted it. Too petty. I needed to maintain the confused old man persona. I waited. 10:30 p.m. The big one. Dad, the toilets won't flush. The water isn't working. Jason says there's a sticker on the door. Ah, the water. When you have a house full of people drinking beer, the plumbing is the first casualty. 10, maybe 20 flushes, and the residual pressure in the lines is gone. After that, it's just accumulation. I finally picked up the phone on the next ring. Hello? I sounded groggy, like I'd been asleep. Dad, finally! Sarah was screaming. I could hear background noise, angry voices. The water is off! The city put a sticker on the door, and the outlets aren't working. Whoa, slow down, I said. What sticker? It says safety hazard. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I said. I'm at a hotel. You told me to leave, Sarah. Fix it. We have 50 people here. The toilets are... God, Dad, it's gross. Sarah, I said, my voice dropping to a concerned whisper, if there's a red sticker, that means it's serious. It might be the backflow preventer. If that fails, sewage can come up through the drains. Silence. What? Sewage, Sarah. Methane gas. It's dangerous. You can't stay there. You're lying, Jason's voice cut in. He must have grabbed the phone. You turned it off. I know you did, old man. Jason, I said, check the breaker box. Is it tripped? No, he snapped. Everything is on, but there's no power to the outlets. That sounds like a wiring failure, I said. Aluminum fatigue, maybe? Fire hazard. Listen to me very carefully. You need to get everyone out of there. If the fire marshal comes and sees a party in a house with a condemned water line and faulty wiring, he won't just shut you down. He'll arrest the organizer for reckless endangerment. I made that up. Mostly. But Jason didn't know that. "You're bluffing," Jason said, but his voice wavered. "Am I?" I asked. "Look at the sticker, Jason. Does it look like a bluff? Go ahead. Stay. But don't flush the toilet again. It might come back up." I hung up. I turned off my phone. I finished my scotch. I slept like a baby. The next morning, Saturday, I woke up at 7 a.m. I went down to the hotel buffet. I had eggs, bacon, and coffee. I read the paper. I turned my phone back on at 9 a.m. 14 missed calls. 32 texts. The progression of the texts told a story better than any novel. 11:15 p.m. People are leaving. This sucks. 11:45 p.m. The smell is getting bad. Jason is trying to fix the water valve. 12:30 a.m. Jason broke the handle on the street valve. Water is spraying everywhere outside. I smiled. He tried to force the curb stop. He didn't know you need a specific key. He probably used pliers. Tampering with city utilities? That's a felony. Or at least a heavy misdemeanor and a massive fine. 1 a.m. Cops are here. Someone called about the water leak. 2:15 a.m. They made everyone leave. They said the house is uninhabitable. 2:30 a.m. Dad, where are you? We have nowhere to go. I replied to the last one. I'm at the Embassy Suites, room 412. I waited. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it. Sarah stood there. She looked wrecked. Mascara smeared, hair frizzy. She was wearing yesterday's clothes. Jason was behind her. He looked less smug. He looked wet. His expensive sneakers were caked in mud. "Dad," Sarah said, her voice cracking. I didn't step aside. I filled the doorway. "You changed the locks," I said. We just wanted privacy," she stammered. "You told me I didn't live there anymore." "We were just mad. Please, Dad, can we come in? I need a shower." I looked at Jason. "He stays outside." "What?" Jason bristled. "No way! We're a package deal." "Then you're a homeless package deal," I said. "This is my room. I paid for it." "With the credit card you maxed out?" "No, wait, I used my debit card, the one you didn't drain yet." "Dad, please," Sarah was crying now. "It's just a hotel room." "It's my sanctuary," I said. "You wanted to play grown-up. Grown-ups pay their bills. Grown-ups don't steal $4,000 from their father. Grown-ups don't lock the owner out of his own house." I looked Sarah in the eye. "You can come in. You can shower. You can order room service. But he leaves. He goes back to his parents or his followers. I don't care. But he never sets foot in my house or my hotel room again." Sarah looked at Jason. Jason looked at Sarah. "Babe, don't let him do this," Jason said. "He's manipulating you." "He manipulated the plumbing," I said, "and you fell for it. You broke the city valve, didn't you, Jason? I saw the text. That's a $2,000 fine, plus the repair cost. Guess whose name is on the deed? Mine. Guess who I'm going to sue for the damages?" Jason turned pale. "I'm going to give you a choice, Jason," I said. "You walk away right now. You delete Sarah's number. You disappear. Or I file a police report for the theft of the $4,000 and the vandalism of the city property. I have the texts proving you were there. I have the bank records." "You wouldn't," he said. "I cut off the water to my own house to flush you out," I said, my voice dropping to that cold, dangerous register again. "Do you really want to find out what else I'm willing to do?" He looked at me. He saw the tired lines in my face, the calluses on my hands. But he also saw something else. He saw that I had absolutely nothing left to lose.
He backed up. "Fine," he spat. "Keep your crappy house. She's crazy anyway." He turned and walked down the hall. He didn't look back. Sarah stood there, watching him go. She didn't chase him. She just slumped. "Come inside," I said gently. She walked in. She sat on the bed and buried her face in her hands. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Dad." I poured her a glass of water, from the tap. "Drink," I said, "then shower. We have work to do."
The cleanup took a week. The house smelled like stale beer and backed-up plumbing. The carpet in the living room was ruined. The Persian rug was stained with red wine. I rolled it up. "We'll get it cleaned," I told Sarah, "or we'll get a new one." We spent the days scrubbing. Sarah worked harder than I'd ever seen her work. She scrubbed the baseboards, she hauled trash bags full of red cups and pizza boxes to the curb. She didn't complain once. On Tuesday, the city worker came to fix the valve Jason broke. It was Dave. He winked at me as he wrote up the bill. "Looks like vandalism," Dave said loudly so Sarah could hear. "Lucky the homeowner reported it quickly. I'll waive the negligence fine, but you gotta pay for the parts." "Put it on my tab," I said. I reconnected the electrical wires in the panel. I took the tape off the fiber optic cable. The house hummed back to life. But things were different. We sat at the kitchen table on Friday night, exactly 1 week after the lockout. I had the spreadsheet open on the laptop. "Okay," I said, "here's the damage. The rug, the valve repair, the hotel bill, the cash you took." Sarah looked down at her hands. "I'll pay it back, I promise. I'll get a job." "You will," I said, "but not just any job. You're going back to finish your degree. You have 1 semester left." "I can't afford tuition," she whispered. "I can," I said, "but here are the new terms." I slid a piece of paper across the table. A lease agreement. Tenant, Sarah Miller. Landlord, Michael Miller. Rent, $0. Conditions: 1. Maintain a B average. 2. 20 hours of work per week. 3. No overnight guests without prior approval. 4. The locks do not change. She read it. Tears welled up in her eyes again. "Dad, after everything, why?" I looked around the kitchen. I remembered Linda painting these walls yellow. I remembered Sarah sitting in that high chair throwing spaghetti on the floor. I remembered the silence of the house for the last 5 years. "Because it's your home," I said, "and because everyone makes mistakes. Some people just need the power cut to see them clearly." She signed the paper. She got up and hugged me. Not a quick hug, a real one. She smelled like cleaning products and sweat. She smelled like honest work. "Thank you," she said into my shoulder. "You're welcome," I said. "Now go take out the recycling. It's pickup day tomorrow." She laughed, a real laugh. "Yes, sir." I watched her walk out to the garage. I picked up my phone. I opened the banking app. I transferred $500 into her account, just for groceries. I walked to the front door. I tested the lock. My key slid in smooth as butter. Click. Locked. Click. Unlocked. I stepped out onto the porch. The night was clear, no rain. I looked at the utility pole. The transformer hummed against the stars. It's a beautiful sound, electricity. Power. Controlled, directed, useful power. But you have to respect it. If you don't, it bites. Jason learned that the hard way. Sarah learned it the hard way. And me? I learned that sometimes, to keep the lights on, you have to turn them off first. I went back inside. I locked the door. And for the first time in a week, I was home. 6 months later, I was in the garden, pruning the roses, Linda's roses. They were blooming late this year, vibrant splashes of red against the white siding. A car pulled up, not a BMW, a Honda Civic. Sarah got out. She was wearing scrubs. She'd gotten a job as a phlebotomist while finishing her nursing credits. She looked tired, but good tired. The kind of tired that comes from doing something real. "Hey, Dad," she waved. "Hey, kiddo." She walked up the drive, digging in her bag. "Guess what? You win the lottery?" "Better." She handed me an envelope. I opened it. A check. $1,000. "First installment," she said, "for the emergency fund." I looked at the check. Then I looked at her. "You didn't have to do this yet. You have tuition." "I wanted to," she said. "I picked up extra shifts." I nodded. I put the check in my pocket. "Proud of you," I said. "Oh, and I brought dinner," she said, lifting a takeout bag. "Thai food, extra spicy for you." We walked inside together. The house was clean. The new rug, not Persian, just a nice wool blend, lay flat in the living room. The TV was on. The internet was fast. As we ate, my phone buzzed. An Instagram notification. I don't really use it, but I kept the account. It was a suggested post. Jason. I clicked it. He was in a small apartment, bad lighting. He looked thinner. He was trying to sell some kind of crypto AI token. The caption read, "Grind never stops. Hashtag hustle, empire, Lambo soon." There were 3 likes. One was from his mom. I showed Sarah. She looked at the screen. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She just shrugged. "Hope he figures it out," she said. Then she put her phone down. "Dad, pass the spring rolls?" I passed the plate. "So," I said, "how's the wiring holding up?" She rolled her eyes. "Ha ha, very funny. It's perfect. You know it is." "Just checking," I said. "Maintenance is key." We ate in comfortable silence. The house settled around us. The refrigerator hummed. The water heater kicked on in the basement. Everything working exactly as designed. I looked at my daughter. She wasn't the little girl holding the flashlight anymore. She was a woman who had made a mistake, paid the price, and rebuilt. Just like this house. I took a bite of the spring roll. It was spicy, perfect. The war was over. The usurper was gone. The infrastructure held. And the keys? They were right where they belonged. In my pocket. I poured us both a glass of water. Cold, clear, running freely. "To plumbing," I said, raising my glass. Sarah laughed. She clinked her glass against mine. "To plumbing." We drank, and it tasted like victory. That night, before bed, I went down to the basement. I checked the breaker panel. Everything neatly labeled. Kitchen, living room, master bed, Sarah's room. I ran my hand over the metal box. It's funny, people think a house is an asset, a financial instrument. Jason thought it was dead equity. He didn't understand. A house is a machine for living. It requires inputs, it requires care, and it requires a captain. I turned off the basement light. I walked up the stairs. The wood didn't creak. I'd fixed those steps in '05. I went into my room. I looked at the photo of Linda on the dresser. "We did okay," I whispered to her. "She's back. She's safe." I could almost hear Linda's voice. "Took you long enough, Mike." "Yeah, well," I smiled. "I had to use the nuclear option." I got into bed. I listened to the house. The wind outside, the rhythmic ticking of the rain starting up again. But inside, warm, dry, secure. I closed my eyes. I didn't dream of revenge. I didn't dream of Jason or the money or the lawyers. I dreamed of wiring diagrams. Clean, parallel lines. Circuits completing. Energy flowing exactly where it was supposed to go. The lights were out, but the power was all mine.